The scream tore through the luxury terminal of Atlanta International Airport before Amara Okafor even understood it came from her own throat. Jun-Seok. The crowd scattered as a man in a black hoodie sprinted past her, shoving travelers aside as he snatched the suitcase from her hand and ripped her carry-on bag from her shoulder. Amara stumbled backward, her heart thundering, a flash of panic exploding inside her chest. For a split second, she froze. Then Jun-Seok was there, moving faster than she'd ever seen him, his voice sharp with panic. "Amara, get behind me." She didn't think. She grabbed the edge of his jacket and ducked behind him as he barreled after the thief. The airport erupted in chaos. Security alarms blared. People screamed. A suitcase tumbled across the marble floor. And right in the middle of it, Amara watched her boyfriend, a man who hated confrontation, who apologized even when someone else bumped into him, chasing a stranger through the terminal like he had nothing to lose. "Jun-Seok," she called again. He didn't look back. He vaulted over a row of chairs, sprinting after the thief with a speed that made several onlookers gasp. The thief darted toward an emergency exit, but at the last second, airport security intercepted him, tackling him to the floor with a loud thud. Jun-Seok skidded to a stop, chest heaving, his hair falling into his eyes. One security officer shoved the stolen bags back toward him. "Sir, is this yours?" He nodded quickly. "Yes, thank you. Thank you so much." His voice shook. He ran back to Amara, breathless, sweat beading his forehead, fear still bright in his eyes. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "Amara, talk to me." She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her heart was pounding too loudly. He cupped her face gently, his palms warm against her skin. Hey, look at me." She looked up at him and finally exhaled. "I'm fine. I didn't see him coming." "You scared me," he whispered, pulling her into his arms. "I thought." He stopped himself, burying his face in her hair. Amara wrapped her arms around his waist, feeling his trembling shoulders and realizing, painfully, that she meant more to him than he ever said out loud. And this was how their trip began. Seconds after a near mugging, breath shaky but hearts tied even tighter than before, they boarded their flight to Korea, a country she had never been to, but he had fled years ago, a country she had no idea would try to break them. They found their seats, and once they were settled, Amara finally spoke. "Is this normal here? Do people really get robbed inside airports?" "No," Jun-Seok murmured, still shaken. "No, it's not normal. But you're safe. That's what matters." She leaned her head against the window, staring at their reflection in the glass. Her dark brown skin, his fair complexion, her bright, expressive eyes, his calm, sharp gaze, their fingers still intertwined. They looked like opposites to everyone else. To her, they looked perfect. "Are you sure you still want to go?" he asked quietly. "Of course," she said. "I promised I'd be there for you." He hesitated. "It's just, my family is complicated." She laughed softly. "Everyone's family is complicated." He didn't laugh back. The flight took off. Hours later, after meals, movies, and quiet moments of his thumb rubbing reassuring circles against her hand, they landed in Seoul. Amara expected a normal arrival. She was wrong. The moment they stepped out of the arrival gate, 3 black luxury vans were waiting at the curb. A small group of men in tailored suits stood lined up beside them. People stared. Phones rose. Whispers spread instantly. "Who are they?" "That's Kimtech Security, isn't it?" "Is that the heir?" "Who's the girl with him?" Amara blinked rapidly, her hand tightening around her luggage handle. "June." "Who are they staring at?" He tried to force a casual smile, but his shoulders tensed. "Just ignore them." One of the suited men stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Welcome home, Master Jun-Seok." Amara's eyes widened. "Master?" Jun-Seok winced. "Please don't call me that." "It is protocol, sir," the man insisted. Amara turned to him slowly. "Jun-Seok, what is going on?" He inhaled sharply. "I wanted to tell you when we got here, so you wouldn't freak out on the plane. That doesn't answer the question. He rubbed the back of his neck, expression tight. My family owns Kimtech Innovations. She stared blankly. Kimtech, the robotics company? The one that built the AI surgical arms. He nodded reluctantly. The one that just unveiled the smart vehicles? The one that has skyscrapers in every city. Her voice rose with each word. Yes, the one that was practically the Samsung of robotics. She dropped her suitcase. You told me your family had money. You didn't tell me they had all the money. He flinched at her tone. I didn't want it to matter. Well, it kinda does. Their driver opened the van door. Master Jun-Seok, Miss Okafor, please. Your mother is expecting you. Amara froze again. Your mother? She whispered. He nodded. When are you going to tell me that, too? I was hoping. Not immediately. She let out a hollow laugh. Fantastic start. The ride to the estate was painfully silent at first, but eventually he reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. He looked relieved. Look, I didn't hide it because I don't trust you, he said softly. I hid it because my family uses money like a weapon, and I didn't want them judging you before they even met you. She studied him carefully. Do they know about me? He swallowed. My mother does. And his silence was the answer. The van turned into a private road lined with cherry blossom trees glowing under warm lantern lights. It felt like entering another world. A world Amara hadn't been prepared for. She whispered, Your family lives here alone? And the families of our in-house staff, he said. In-house. He winced. Don't freak out. But she already was. The estate gates opened. It wasn't a house, it was a kingdom. A long driveway led to a mansion larger than some universities. Marble fountains fired water into the air. Uniformed staff lined the walkway, bowing as the van approached. Amara's stomach sank. They stepped out, and the air smelled like jasmine and polished stone. Then she saw her. Madame Kim Yunja. Tall, immaculate, not a hair out of place. A face carved from cold elegance. Eyes sharp enough to cut. She didn't smile, not even a fake one. Her gaze moved to Amara, lingering for one long, uncomfortably assessing second. Amara straightened her posture instinctively. Jun-Seok bowed. Mother. Yunja gave her son a brief nod, but her eyes never left Amara. So, she said quietly, this is the girl. Amara forced a polite smile. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Amara. I know who you are. Yunja's voice was calm, but her gaze was icy. You are the reason my son refused an arranged meeting with the daughter of Chairman Huang. Jun-Seok tensed. Mother. Yunja raised a hand. We will speak inside. Not here. Amara's heart dropped. She wasn't welcome. It was written across every tight line of Yunja's posture. But Jun-Seok squeezed her hand again, and for a moment, it steadied her. Inside the mansion, everything gleamed with wealth. The chandeliers, the marble floors, the glass walls overlooking manicured gardens. Amara felt like she had stepped inside a palace that did not want her, a palace that wished she'd never walked through its doors. She whispered to him, Are you sure about this? He looked into her eyes with a softness that always weakened her defenses. I'm sure about you. A voice drifted down the stairs, smooth, sweet, and dripping with false innocence. Jun-Seok. A stunning Korean woman descended gracefully, wearing a designer dress that Amara knew cost more than her entire closet combined. She smiled at Jun-Seok like they shared a secret, and then her eyes landed on Amara. Seo Hyun. Amara didn't know her yet, but she already didn't like her. Seo Hyun clasped her hands theatrically. You didn't tell me she was so unexpected. Amara blinked. Unexpected. Seo Hyun laughed lightly. Oh, I didn't mean it rudely. It's just that no one thought you'd bring someone so different. Jun-Seok stepped closer to Amara, jaw tightening. Stop. Seo Hyun tilted her head at him, feigning innocence. What? I'm only saying what everyone is already thinking. He squeezed Amara's hand tighter and whispered, Ignore her. But Amara couldn't ignore the heat in her cheeks. She couldn't ignore the stares from staff members pretending not to judge her. She couldn't ignore the sharp glances from Yunja. She had never felt so out of place. Later, as they walked down the long hallway toward their guest room, she whispered, "Your mother hates me." "No," he said quickly. "She just doesn't want me here," Amara finished. He closed his eyes briefly. "She'll warm up. Eventually. Are you sure?" He didn't answer, and that silence scared her more than anything else that had happened that day. Amara barely slept that night. The guest bedroom they had been given was larger than her entire apartment back in Atlanta, but the luxury felt suffocating. The bed was too soft, the silence too loud. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Madame Kim's cold stare, heard Seo Hyun's sweetly venomous voice, felt the weight of a world that didn't want her. Jun-Seok lay beside her, staring up at the ceiling, his arm loosely around her waist. "You're awake," she murmured. "I've been awake," he admitted. She shifted slightly, turning toward him. "You should have told me." "I know. Not just about the money," she continued quietly. "About your mother. About all of this." He exhaled slowly. "I was afraid if I did, you wouldn't come. And maybe I wouldn't have," she said honestly. That made him turn to her. "Do you regret it?" She studied his face in the dim light, sharp jawline, tired eyes, the familiar expression that always softened her anger. "I don't regret you," she said. "I just wish I had walked in prepared." He nodded. "That's fair." Silence stretched between them again, heavier this time. "June," she whispered after a while, "does your family expect you to marry her?" He didn't pretend not to understand who she meant. "They expect me to marry someone like her. Someone Korean. Someone rich. Someone approved." "Yes. And what do you want?" He turned fully toward her now, his hand brushing her cheek. "I want you. I've always wanted you." Her throat tightened. "Then why does it feel like I'm standing in front of a firing squad?" "Because you are," he thought but didn't say. The next morning came too fast. Amara woke to the sound of soft knocking and immediately tensed. A woman in a uniform bowed deeply when Amara opened the door. "Miss Okafor, Madame Kim requests your presence at breakfast." Her stomach dropped. Jun-Seok. He has already joined her. Of course he had. Amara dressed carefully, choosing a modest but elegant outfit. Nothing flashy, nothing casual. She braided her hair neatly, smoothing every strand like it might somehow earn her acceptance. When she entered the dining hall, the room fell quiet. The table was long enough to seat 20 people. At the head sat Madame Kim, composed and regal. Jun-Seok sat 2 seats away, his posture stiff. Seo Hyun sat nearby, smiling brightly. Amara felt like prey stepping into a room of predators. "Good morning," she said politely, bowing slightly the way she had seen others do. Madame Kim gestured to an empty chair. "Sit." Amara did. Breakfast was served by staff who moved silently, like shadows. No one spoke for several minutes. Then Madame Kim set her chopsticks down. "Miss Okafor," she began, her tone calm and measured. "Tell me about your family." Amara straightened. "My parents are Nigerian immigrants. My father is an accountant. My mother is a nurse. They live in Houston." "And their status?" Yunja asked. Amara blinked. "Their status?" "Yes, social standing, connections, assets." Amara felt heat creep into her cheeks. "They're hard-working people. They raised me to value education and integrity." Seo Hyun chuckled softly. "That's admirable." Jun-Seok shot her a warning look. Madame Kim's gaze remained fixed on Amara. "And your future plans?" "I'm completing my graduate program in international development," Amara replied. "I plan to work in policy consulting or nonprofit leadership." Yunja raised an eyebrow. "You plan to work?" "Yes." Jun-Seok shifted uncomfortably. Yunja leaned back slightly. "A wife in the Kim family does not need to work." Amara met her gaze evenly. "I need to work." That earned her the first real reaction from Yunja. Surprise, quickly masked. Interesting, Yunja said. Jun-Seok, did you know this? He nodded. Yes, mother. That's one of the things I admire about her. Seo Hyan's smile tightened. Yunja stood. We will continue this conversation later. Today there are preparations. For what? Amara asked. Yunja paused, her lips curving faintly. For the wedding. Amara's heart skipped. Wedding? Seo Hyan clapped her hands together. My cousin's wedding, silly. It's a week-long celebration. You'll see all of Seoul's elite. Jun-Seok looked away. She looked up at him, tears finally spilling. I love you, but I love myself too. Amara, please. She stepped back. I won't make you choose. She walked past him, her heart shattering with every step. And for the first time since they met, Jun-Seok didn't know how to stop her. Jun-Seok stood frozen in the doorway long after Amara disappeared down the hall. The sound of her suitcase wheels echoing like a countdown he didn't know how to stop. His chest burned, his throat tight, every instinct screaming at him to chase her. But his feet wouldn't move. Not yet. He knew his mother too well. He knew the timing of her moves, the way she waited until emotions were raw and choices felt inevitable. If Amara left now, Yunja would win without ever having to raise her voice. By the time he finally ran after her, the corridor was empty. Damn it, he muttered, shoving his hand through his hair. He found her suitcase missing from the luggage room. The front gate guards confirmed it moments later. Miss Okafor has already departed, sir. Jun-Seok's heart dropped. Where? She requested a car to the city. She did not specify her destination. Of course she hadn't. She was running on instinct, on hurt, on the need to breathe somewhere that didn't feel like a battlefield. Jun-Seok turned back toward the mansion, his jaw set. If his mother thought this was over, she was wrong. Amara sat stiffly in the back of the car as Seoul blurred past the window. Neon signs, crowded streets, strangers laughing on sidewalks. Life moving on like nothing had cracked open inside her. Her phone buzzed in her lap. Jun-Seok. She didn't answer. It buzzed again. Then again. She turned the phone face down, pressing her palms to her eyes. Her chest ached, like something vital had been ripped out and left bleeding. I'm not strong enough for this, she whispered to herself. I'm not. She had loved him in a world where love felt simple, where their biggest problems were deadlines and rent and whose turn it was to cook. She hadn't signed up to be a political liability in a billionaire dynasty. The car stopped in front of a boutique hotel near the Han River. She checked in under her own name and collapsed onto the bed, exhaustion hitting her like a wave. She cried until her head hurt, and then she slept. Jun-Seok didn't sleep at all. He stood in his mother's study, fists clenched at his sides, as Yunja reviewed documents at her desk like nothing had happened. She left, he said flatly. Yunja didn't look up. That was inevitable. You pushed her out. I protected this family, she corrected, which is my duty. She loved me, he said, his voice cracking. And I love her. Yunja finally met his gaze. Love does not sustain empires. I don't care about the empire. That is because you have never had to fight for it, Yunja said coolly. Everything you enjoy exists because people before you made sacrifices. I didn't ask them to. But you benefit from them, she replied. And now it is your turn. Jun-Seok stepped closer. You threatened to take everything from me. Yes. You would disown me? If necessary. He laughed bitterly. All because I chose someone you don't approve of. You chose instability, Yunja snapped. You chose embarrassment. She is not an embarrassment. Yunja's eyes hardened. She is temporary. Jun-Seok shook his head slowly. You're wrong. Yunja leaned back in her chair. Seo Hyan is arriving tomorrow. The engagement announcement will proceed. There will be no engagement. There will, Yunja said. Or you will no longer be a Kim. The words landed like a guillotine. Jun-Seok left without another word. Amara woke to a knock on her hotel door the next morning. For a foolish second, hope flared. It died instantly when she opened the door and saw Seo Hyan standing there. Perfectly dressed, perfectly composed. May I come in? Seo-hyun asked sweetly. No, Amara said bluntly. Seo-hyun smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. It means you're finally being honest. Amara crossed her arms. Say what you came to say. Seo-hyun's eyes flicked over the room. You really thought you could walk into our world and take him? I didn't take anything, Amara replied. He chose me. For now, Seo-hyun said. But he always comes back. Amara laughed humorlessly. You sound very confident for someone whose engagement isn't even real. Seo-hyun stepped closer. It will be. His mother has already decided. And what about Jun-Seok? Amara asked. Does what he wants matter to you at all? Seo-hyun tilted her head. What he wants has never mattered in this family. Only what is required. Amara's throat tightened. Then why are you here? Because I want you to leave Korea, Seo-hyun said softly. Not temporarily. Permanently. And if I don't? Seo-hyun's smile vanished. Then you will be crushed. Amara met her gaze steadily. I already left. Seo-hyun studied her for a moment, then nodded. Good. Stay gone. She turned and walked away without another word. That evening, Amara went for a walk along the river, the cool air clearing her head. She watched couples pass by, laughing, arguing, living. Ordinary love. The kind she had wanted. Her phone buzzed again. Jun-Seok, please, just talk to me. She typed, erased, typed again. I can't do this. The reply came instantly. I'm choosing you. Her breath caught. You don't get to say that after letting her chase me out. She typed. I'm fighting her. You're fighting an empire, she replied. Then I'll burn it down. Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. Back at the mansion, preparations for the wedding reached a fever pitch. Reporters gathered outside the gates. Executives arrived. Seo-hyun was everywhere, smiling for cameras, already acting like the future bride. Jun-Seok refused to appear. When Yeonja confronted him, he stood his ground. There will be no announcement, he said. If you make one, I will deny it publicly. Yeonja stared at him in disbelief. You would humiliate us? I would tell the truth. You are making a mistake. No, he said quietly. I made one when I let you think you could control my life. Yeonja slapped him. The sound echoed through the room. Jun-Seok didn't flinch. Yeonja's voice trembled. Not with regret, but with fury. You are not the son I raised. You raised me to be strong, he said. This is me being strong. That night he left the estate. Amara was packing again when her phone rang. Jun-Seok's voice was hoarse. I'm coming to you. Don't, she said quickly. This isn't fair to you. I don't care about fair, he replied. I care about us. She closed her eyes. You'll regret this. Not if I lose you, he said. When he arrived at the hotel, she opened the door and froze. He looked exhausted, determined. They stood there, staring at each other, the space between them thick with everything unsaid. I'm not leaving Korea, he said immediately. And I'm not marrying her. And your family? Amara asked. They can do whatever they want. Tears filled her eyes. You're giving up everything. He stepped closer. I'm choosing something. She shook her head. I don't want to be the reason. You're not the reason, he interrupted. You're the answer. She broke. She pressed her forehead against his chest, sobbing, and he wrapped his arms around her like he had been holding himself together with sheer willpower until that moment. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I, he admitted. But I'd rather be scared with you than empty without you. They stayed like that for a long time. But outside, the world was already sharpening its knives. They didn't sleep that night. They lay tangled together on the hotel bed, not touching much, just close enough to feel each other breathe. Every time Amara shifted, Jun-Seok stirred, like he was afraid she might disappear if he let his guard down even for a second. When dawn finally crept through the thin curtains, Amara sat up slowly, pulling the sheet around herself. This doesn't make it easier, she said quietly. Jun-Seok rubbed his face and pushed himself upright. I didn't think it would. I just couldn't let you go without fighting. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the cost already etched into his expression. Dark circles under his eyes, a tension in his jaw that hadn't been there before Korea. They'll destroy you, she said. Your mother, the board, the media. They won't just let you walk away. I know. And you're still here. Yes. She laughed weakly. You're insane. Probably, he said, reaching for her hand. But I've never been more certain about anything. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She didn't need to look to know who it was. Madam Kim Yunja. Amara stared at the screen, then at Jun-Seok. She's calling me. He stiffened. You don't have to answer. Amara swallowed. I think I do. She answered, putting the call on speaker. Miss Okafor. Yunja's voice came through, calm and controlled. I trust you slept well. Amara's spine straightened. As well as can be expected. I would like to see you. Alone. Jun-Seok shook his head, whispering, No. Amara raised a hand to stop him. Where? The tea house at Bukshin, Yunja replied. 1 hour. The call ended. Amara let the phone drop onto the bed. Her hands were shaking. You're not going, Jun-Seok said firmly. I am, she replied. This is a trap. Everything in your world is a trap, she said softly. But I need to hear it from her. To my face. He grabbed her hands. I'll come with you, she said alone. I don't care. She does, Amara said. And this is her territory. If I don't go, she'll make this worse. He exhaled sharply, torn. I don't want her hurting you. She already has, Amara said gently. This just puts it into words. The tea house was traditional, quiet, steeped in centuries of ritual. Yunja sat perfectly composed at a low table, dressed in elegant black, as if mourning something that hadn't died yet. Amara bowed slightly before sitting across from her. They regarded each other in silence for a long moment. You are brave, Yunja said finally. I will give you that. I didn't come for compliments, Amara replied. Yunja poured tea with precise movements. You came because you want clarity. Yes. You want me to say the words you already know, Yunja said. That you will never be accepted into this family. Amara met her gaze. Say them. Yunja didn't flinch. You will never be accepted. The words landed heavily, but Amara didn't break. I grew up being told where I didn't belong, she said quietly. That doesn't scare me. Yunja studied her with renewed interest. You misunderstand. This is not about fear. This is about damage. Damage to what? To the company. To our reputation. To Jun-Seok's future. Amara leaned forward. What future? The one where he smiles for cameras and suffocates inside. Yunja's lips tightened. You speak as if love is enough. No, Amara said. I speak as someone who knows what it costs to give up who you are. Yunja's eyes flickered for just a second. You think I didn't love? Yunja asked coldly. You think I didn't sacrifice? Then you know exactly what you're asking him to do, Amara replied. Yunja straightened. I am asking him to survive. And I'm asking him to live. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Yunja spoke again. Leave Korea. Today. If you do, I will ensure Jun-Seok keeps his position, his inheritance, his name. Amara's breath caught. And if I don't? Yunja's voice hardened. Then I will make sure he loses everything. Amara stood slowly. Her legs felt unsteady, but her voice was firm. You raised a man who knows how to choose. That terrifies you. Yunja didn't respond. Amara bowed once more. I won't be bought. She walked out. When she told Jun-Seok what happened, his face went pale. She threatened you. She threatened you, Amara corrected. He grabbed his keys. Then we're leaving. Together. No, Amara said immediately. That's exactly what she wants. I don't care what she wants. I do, Amara said. Because if we leave like this, she controls the ending. What are you saying? She took a shaky breath. I'm saying you need to finish this. On your terms. The wedding day arrived like a ticking bomb. The estate overflowed with guests, cameras, and whispered anticipation. Everyone expected an announcement. Everyone expected Jun-Seok to fall in line. Seo Hyun stood radiant in designer couture, greeting guests like a future queen. Jun-Seok hadn't arrived yet. Amara watched the ceremony from a distance, hidden among the crowd, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might faint. She had told herself she was only there to witness the end. She didn't expect him to fight. The officiant cleared his throat. "Before we proceed, there is an announcement from the Kim family." Madame Kim Yunja rose. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "My son," Yunja began, "has reached a stage in his life where—" "Stop!" Jun-Seok's voice cut through the air. He stepped forward, dressed simply, his expression resolute. The crowd erupted in whispers. Yunja froze. "Jun-Seok, this is not the time." "It's exactly the time," he said. He turned to the guests, to the cameras, to the board members who held his future in their hands. "I will not accept an arranged engagement," he said clearly. "I will not marry Seo Hyun." Seo Hyun's smile shattered. "I am in love with Amara Okafor," Jun-Seok continued, "and I choose her, with or without this family." A stunned silence followed. Amara's breath caught painfully in her chest. Yunja's face went white. "You would shame us like this?" "No," he said softly. "You shamed yourselves when you tried to erase my humanity." Cameras flashed wildly. Yunja's hands trembled at her sides. Jun-Seok looked out over the crowd one last time, then turned and walked away. Amara ran. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She just moved, pushing through stunned guests, her heart screaming his name. She found him outside, breathing hard. The city spread behind him. "You did it," she whispered. He turned, eyes burning. "I meant every word." Tears streamed down her face. "You just destroyed your life." He stepped closer. "No, I saved it." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance as security scrambled. Reporters shouted questions, and the empire cracked at its seams. Jun-Seok cupped her face. "If you walk away now, I'll understand." She shook her head. "I'm not walking away." They stood there together, knowing the hardest part was still ahead. Because choosing love was only the beginning. The fallout was immediate. Phones rang nonstop. Security tried to usher guests away while reporters shouted questions in 3 languages. Seo Hyun disappeared into the crowd, her perfect composure finally cracking. Board members clustered in tense conversations, already calculating losses, alliances, damage control. Madame Kim Yunja stood frozen at the center of it all, her face unreadable, as if the world had tilted off its axis and she was refusing to acknowledge gravity. Jun-Seok didn't look back. He took Amara's hand, firm and unyielding, and led her away from the estate. Every step felt unreal, like they were walking out of a dream and into a fire. They drove in silence, not because there was nothing to say, but because everything mattered too much. Finally, Amara broke it. "What happens now?" Jun-Seok exhaled slowly. "Now they decide whether they want to punish me or pretend I never existed." "And you?" she asked. "I start over," he said simply. "If I have to." Her chest tightened. "You don't sound scared." "I am," he admitted. "But not of losing money. Not of losing status." He glanced at her. "I was terrified of losing you." She reached for his hand. "You almost did." "I know," he said quietly. "And I won't make that mistake again." That night, they stayed in a small apartment borrowed from one of Jun-Seok's old university friends. It was cramped, mismatched, nothing like the mansion they'd left behind. Felt like freedom. They sat on the floor eating takeout, knees touching, exhaustion settling into their bones. Amara laughed suddenly, a breathless, disbelieving sound. "Do you realize how insane the last week has been?" Jun-Seok smiled faintly. "My mother once canceled an entire holiday because the flowers were the wrong shade of white." Amara stared at him. "You grew up like that and still turned out you?" He shrugged. "I ran as soon as I could. And now I'm done running." She studied him carefully. You're really prepared to lose everything? He met her gaze without hesitation. I already lost myself once. I won't do it again. She swallowed hard. Then we need a plan. He nodded. I know. The next morning, headlines exploded. Kim heir rejects dynasty. Billionaire son chooses foreign woman. Kim tech future in question. Amara stared at the screen, her stomach churning. They're calling me a distraction. Jun-Seok closed the laptop. They can call you whatever they want. They're threatening lawsuits. I expected that. They're saying you're unstable. He laughed humorlessly. That's generous. Amara's phone buzzed. Her mother. She hesitated before answering. Mom. Amara. Her mother said, worry thick in her voice. What is going on? I just saw the news. Amara closed her eyes. It's complicated. Are you safe? Yes. Are you happy? She looked at Jun-Seok, who was watching her quietly, concern etched into his face. Yes, she said firmly. I am. There was a pause. Then whatever you've chosen, her mother said. We support you. Amara's throat tightened. Thank you. Jun-Seok watched her carefully after she hung up. You okay? She nodded. I forgot what it feels like to be backed without conditions. He smiled softly. Get used to it. But the storm wasn't over. 2 days later, Jun-Seok was summoned to a board meeting. They want me to resign, he told Amara afterward. Quietly. And if you don't, they'll force me out publicly. She took his hands. What do you want to do? He thought for a moment. I want to walk away before they pretend they pushed me. So he did. He released a statement that afternoon, announcing his resignation from Kim Tech Innovations, citing irreconcilable differences in vision and values. The internet exploded again. Some called him foolish. Others called him brave. Amara watched him pack the last of his belongings from the estate, items he had retrieved under staff supervision, and felt the weight of what he was giving up. I'm sorry, she whispered. He shook his head. Don't be. But that night, she found him staring out the window, silent. You're grieving, she said gently. Yes, he admitted. Not the money. The idea of what my family could have been. She rested her head against his shoulder. You don't lose the right to mourn just because you chose yourself. He kissed her hair. Thank you for saying that. Days passed. The noise slowly dulled. Then came the call Amara hadn't expected. Madam Kim Yunja. She stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. Yes. I would like to see you, Yunja said. One last time. Amara hesitated. Why? Because I owe you something, Yunja replied. Against every instinct, Amara agreed. They met at the same tea house. Yunja looked older, smaller somehow. You won, Yunja said without preamble. Amara frowned. This isn't about winning. You dismantled everything I built, Yunja continued. And yet you did not gloat. Amara folded her hands. I never wanted your world. I wanted your son to have a choice. Yunja studied her carefully. I underestimated you. That doesn't sound like an apology. Yunja exhaled slowly. It is the closest thing I have. Amara nodded. I'll accept that. Yunja hesitated. Jun-Seok will never be welcome back. Amara met her gaze steadily. Then neither will I. For a moment, something like pain flickered across Yunja's face. When Amara returned home, Jun-Seok was waiting. She called you, he said. Yes. He searched her face. And she didn't change, Amara said honestly. But she let go. He absorbed that quietly. That's something. A week later, they stood in another airport. Not running, not crying, just standing side by side with carry-ons and uncertain futures. Where to? Amara asked. Jun-Seok smiled slightly. Anywhere we choose. She leaned into him. That sounds terrifying. And perfect, he replied. As they waited to board, a man rushed past them, shouting into his phone, panic in his voice. For a split second, Amara tensed, memory flashing, but then she laughed softly. Jun-Seok glanced at her. What? I realized something, she said. We survived the worst part already. He squeezed her hand. Together, they boarded the plane not as heirs, not as liabilities, not as symbols. Just as two people who chose each other when it mattered most. As the aircraft lifted into the sky, Amara rested her head against his shoulder. "What if it's hard?" she asked quietly. "It will be," he said. "What if we fail? Then we fail together." She smiled. "I can live with that." Below them, the city of Seoul glittered, beautiful, unforgiving, unforgettable. They didn't look back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. Your support keeps this channel alive and helps us create more deep, emotional Afrofusion romance stories just like this one.